What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rants, no hate. So listen, I did a video and I mentioned Anthony Joshua in the video. Um, I talked about a whole lot of things in that video, and basically, I want to do this video where my focus is Anthony Joshua more so than anybody else. Um, the last video I talked about a lot of things. I pretty much was, responded to something that a person asked me. So I gave a little explanation as to certain things that was going on with, she was talking about the Wilder situation in Fury. And I felt like, I kind of not really broke it down too much, just kind of like, okay, this is pretty much what happened, this, that, and we led to this. But I would suggest, if you want to learn boxing and get into what's going on, focus on the boxing. Because this is a messy story. And it's pretty much something that's disgraceful. So it's not something that we want to just keep and, hold on to. And, we fight against the nonsense. So we break videos down to bring truth, logic, and reason out. Not this whole hyped up story and let's just be a part of a story and go with it. And no. When it doesn't make sense, when lies are being told, somebody needs to tell the truth. I don't mind being that guy. So anyway, Anthony Joshua, I pretty much said in the last video, why I see AJ the way I do. So let me start this video off by getting into that. And let me just say this, okay? Anthony Joshua, I've been watching him, since the Olympics. And watching him progress, watching him become a better fighter, watching him become champion, unified champion. Anthony Joshua has always been a class act. He's always been a classy fighter. He brings class to boxing. Anthony Joshua, he's the one fighter who never has nothing negative to say about anybody. He even gives props to the fighters that shoot him down. And I commend him because I wouldn't do that. And it's not about arguing or, because I don't care about winning arguments and all that. It's more like, for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to see you. You talking shit, I'm going to see you, motherfucker. That's me, AJ is more like, And I commend him for that because that's something that, and the thing is, I'm not concerned or worried about what you say. You know what I'm saying? But it's like I have more of a temper, So my thing is like, we're fighters. You got all his mouth. Like I said, I'll see you. AJ has always been a classy guy. He's dedicated to his training. He's a historian, he's a student of the game. AJ's always talking about how he's still learning. AJ is down to earth. He's realistic. I've always, now Muhammad Ali's the opposite of AJ. Ali bragged, boasting, Ali did his thing. Ali was Ali. I don't ever look at a fighter and say, oh, he should be more like him. Or I wish he was like him. No, you are who you are. Ali backed his talk up, most definitely, and Ali can fight. AJ can fight. We're in a time right now where people put airs on. They act a certain way. Everybody get in front of the camera, they're a tough guy, they're a badass. Most people don't show camaraderie in boxing. They put other fighters down to build themselves up. I remember Jarrell Miller, saying that AJ was on steroids and all. He was using, enhancement drugs and all this. And then he winds up being the one that was doing what he accused AJ of. Oh, he's fake, all this gentleman stuff. And, the one thing that I always respect about a person is when they have strong character, when they are themselves. Like when you see them on or off camera, they're the same. Now, I don't know AJ personally, but I can say AJ is always the same. Even when he gets angry and says something, he never really goes overboard. He'll just say, he's not about talking with him. It's about let's get in the ring and do it. And I always respected that. AJ can fight. I watched AJ fight Klitschko, man, and it was like that was one of the greatest fight. That fight, I love watching that fight to this day. And I'm just going to give you all a little something. This is funny. My kids are teenagers. They like AJ. Now, me personally, there's fighters I like. Like I said, I don't do the fanboy stuff, but I got a lot of respect for AJ. And there's a lot of fighters who like I said, I like them as fighters. But and AJ is a guy I probably talk about AJ less than any other heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? And he's the guy that I want to see, continue to carry the torch. I want to see him become unified champion and just dominate, and lead the sport on top whenever he decides to leave. He's that guy that I push for more than anybody else. Like I said, now, here's the funny thing. My kids, they like AJ. They like Daniel Dubois. They like Roy Jones, Ali. They like Tyson. And not to rub it in anybody's face, but let me tell you something. When I do my videos, right, sometimes they're here, but they're outside or doing whatever. They might pass for something, but they just go. And here, we don't, like, you may hear me say something about certain fighters when I'm doing my videos, but we don't, when I'm in the house and we're just talking wherever we at, we don't sit and, oh, this guy, this and this guy, that. No. You know what's so funny? And my kids love playing like Fight Night Champions. So we got AJ on the game, all these, the current fighters, the older fighters. And so the other day, one of my kids came to me after they were playing Fight Night Champions. I heard them in there watching boxing. They was watching AJ. They was watching Daniel Dubois. They watched Nigel Benn. They know who Nigel Benn is. They know who Chris Eubanks Jr. is. They was watching all these fights, and what's funny is one day my kid, my younger one, he came to me and he said, "Pop, you know who Deontay Wilder is, right?" I said, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "Why is this guy always complaining?" He said, just like the fourth or fifth time I seen him talk, every time he talk, he's always talking like, all he do is complain." He said, "It's disgraceful what he's doing." I didn't know that I heard that he lost. He said, but I watched the fights. I saw the Tyson Fury fight, right? He said both of them. He said he's still talking about that fight. Wasn't that like last year? And I started laughing. I said, well, yeah, he's getting a lot of slack behind that, but it's what it's not necessary. He said, well, if you lose, man, you just get up and you keep going. This is a teenager, man. And this is not even conversations that we like had in the past. This is him. He said, man, this guy, he said, okay, AJ lost. And it's funny that he compared AJ. He said, AJ lost. AJ just came back and got his belt back like a champion supposed to do. He said, man, I don't respect what this guy Wilder is doing. He said, I don't respect that. He said, you know what he said? He said, a lot of people I know that used to say they like Wilder, now they're saying Wilder is starting to sound like a little crybaby. All he's doing is whining and complaining. This is coming from kids, man. Okay, this is coming from a 13-year-old. A 13-year-old. My other teenager comes to me one day. He wasn't even home when we had this conversation. And he's watching, and this is before they even had a conversation. He said, yeah, Pop, I was watching the fight with Fury and Wilder. Again, he said, I just was breaking it down. He said, because somebody in school was telling me that this guy, Wilder, man, is like, he's making a fool out of himself. He said, and I broke the fight. I'm watching it. He said, out of all the things that I heard being said, he said, is this guy Wilder crazy or something? And my son starts to break down to me what JD should have did. And if Wilder really thought that, and this is conversations I've never had with them. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they're teenagers. And I said, yeah, you'll chip off the old block, both of you. I started laughing. And then we sat down and actually had a conversation with them. We started watching some like fight videos. And again, they love watching AJ. And like right now, in the heavyweight division, AJ's that guy. They like him and Daniel Dubois. They like Tyson Fury too. Like I said, now the smaller guys, they don't really watch too many of the smaller guys. But, they do like Errol Spence. They don't really watch the smaller for some reason. They like the heavy, they watch more of the heavyweights, But yeah, they were talking about AJ. And then they said, again, without me saying anything to them, It's like, I like the way this guy carry himself. He's respectable. He's a gentleman. But he can fight though, you know. And they start watching all of AJ fights from the very beginning. So they always been watching him, and it's like so funny because it's like they're more drawn to him because of his attitude. So when they see him fight, it's a respect before they even see him fight because of the way he carry himself. And I really like that about AJ as a human being, as a person. And see, you know, for me, I look at boxing as boxing in general. I don't care where it happens at, what country it happens in. Boxing is boxing to me. But I will say the UK should be proud of AJ as well, and they should be glad to have him as a representative of the UK in boxing, because he's a class act, man. He's someone that I look at him and it's like he's a gentleman when he needs to be, and then he's a warrior once he gets in the ring, and that's just what it is. And you're always going to have people that's going to shoot someone down. They're always going to say a bunch of nonsense about people or whatever, and like I said, everybody, you are who you are. But I respect those things about AJ, and what he's done in such a short time. People don't want to give him his credit. It's okay, because he'll get it anyway. And I'm proud of what he's done. I'm proud of the fact that, even in defeat, he humbly just, took that, like, hey, you know what happened happened. And one of the things I'll never forget, he was being interviewed and the guy said, okay, so like what really happened? And AJ said, okay, you want an excuse or you want the truth? I'll never forget that. And it was like, just when I think I can't have any more respect for him, it's like, wow. Because he could very easily, what we know that came out of Joey DeWaco's mouth to Serafina. Did you hear Joey DeWaco deny that? So he could have easily, man, look, I was concussed. Nothing. He just ate that, took that loss, got up, and he came back like, okay. He did what he didn't even know he could do. Because I remember AJ had an interview and he was saying it just shows you how great Ali was, how he could just dance and move one night. He said, I tried it myself and and no, he didn't move as much as Ali used to move. Like, I mean, he did what he had to do. And he did what he fought on the back foot. He was on his toes. At times he stood there and you can see he really wanted to knock Ruiz out. At times he's, the discipline, all right. This is what got me in trouble last time. Let me get in and get out. He did what he had to do. I can care less about people. Oh, he should have mixed it up more. He should have did this and that. I remember Paulie Malignaggi saying that, and I'm like, Paulie, if he should have mixed it up more, that's your opinion. Why the fuck didn't you mix it up more with Sean Porter? Why did you get steamrolled by Sean Porter? Why didn't you stand there? And yeah, you was moving, backing up, and you still got steamrolled. So why you didn't stand there and mix it up? It's always easier for someone who doesn't even have the ability of the fighter that they're criticizing. And the only reason that people were saying that AJ should have mixed it up more is because they feel like that's the better chance that Ruiz had to win. And these people wanted AJ to lose. We know that. So my thing with AJ, man, is like I said, he can fight. He backs it up. He's an influence. And one of the great things is when your kids do find, like, my kids are interested in training in boxing because of me. But watching boxing on TV is because of AJ. Now, they knew who Roy Jones was before that. They knew who Muhammad Ali was before. They knew who AJ was. They knew who Mike Tyson was. And they would, here and there watch certain things. And because of the game Fight Night Champions, that made them want to watch certain things. But when they saw AJ fight, they started really watching boxing more. Way more. And they've seen every AJ fight that's on YouTube. So it's like, yeah, they really gotten into him. And, one of the things we were talking about, because they heard AJ talk and they said, where's he from, Pop? Because his accent, like, he's from the UK. He's like, okay. And then they started watching. He's like, hey, but I heard he was from Nigeria. They really started to get into, AJ as a fighter and as a person. So it was like, we started, just watching the fights, and they started breaking down his style and watching everything. And you can see, like, fight after fight, how he just get better and better. So it was one of these things, and it was cool because AJ as an ambassador of the sport, I think like you can't find a better person in boxing than AJ for that role. I don't know if he see himself as a role model to not just the kids but people in general. So when you hear people, oh man, like AJ did some fucked up things back in the day, oh he was a thief or he was this, he was that, and it's like, listen, you probably got people in your family that did worse than what he did. You yourself might have been. I mean, who knows? Is people point the finger, but my thing is like, okay, what he did is what he did. What about now? What about now? What if your kid did something rotten and then he's no longer living that way? That's not a part of his lifestyle anymore. Would you want him to be punished, or you want people to treat him based on something he did that he would not, he wouldn't do again? Like he grew up for that, realized it was wrong, and that's not me anymore. It's always easy to point the finger. But my thing is just him as like I said, I don't know him as a person, but the way he carried himself, the professionalism, the respect, the camaraderie, the class that he brings to the sport, it's refreshing, man. Let's just be honest. We live in a time where hardly any fighter want to give credit to their opponents. Damn it, almost every fighter, almost every one of them, all they do is shoot down their opponents. They make it like they're the only good fighter in the division, and pretty much it's like, when you come across someone who's like, nah, I'm not like everybody else, and I don't need to put all that on. I don't need to put these airs on. I just know when that bell ring, I'm gonna take care of business. So with the loss to Andy Ruiz, there's a lot of people that wanted to see AJ fall from grace. They were happy that he lost. They were so glad. And the crazy thing is, because I remember when Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas. Remember that look on Evander Holyfield's face? Because he wanted that fight. And whether you was rooting for Holyfield or whether you was rooting for Mike Tyson, you know what was happening? People wanted to see that fight. People was angry that Mike lost, but it was like overall, the whole scope was damn, man. Damn. Now it's not the same. He just got beat by Douglas. So does it really matter if he fight Holyfield right now? Like it was like damn. When AJ lost, there was a lot of fans that we know the fight we wanted to see was him and Wilder. We know that. And there was a lot of fans that was celebrating. They was happy. No. Why would you be happy that he lost? You know why? Because if he wins, right, that's another step closer to him and Wilder, right? So it was just a lot of people that was just, they didn't even want that fight. And let's be realistic, a lot of people, they didn't want it because they know, like, they feel that fear of that AJ might beat Wilder, And that's the fight that we wanted to see. More so than AJ and Fury, but Fury came back after 2-3 years or whatever it was, and got those 2 wins in. Fought Deontay Wilder. The fight was considered a draw, but everybody, then he come in that, and it wasn't really after the second fight with Wilder. That's when people more so started saying, okay, AJ and Fury. Now, for Undisputed on British soil, between AJ and Fury makes all the sense in the world, and I'm all for that. And I think that if they do fight, that's how it should happen. Why not? Why not? You got 2 great British fighters that, fighting for Undisputed. Yeah, I just know that's a fight I definitely want to see. If Wilder can bounce back and start knocking people out again, get back to his winning ways, and whatever, that's a fight that I want to see. But if it's a thing where he's going downhill and it's like he's not looking the same, no, it's not about feeding the sheep to a slaughter. That'd be like bringing a rib cage to a lion. No, that's not what it's about. If he's not the same fighter after this, and it's a fight that should have happened that didn't happen. If that's the case, but if he can, we already know that you can outbox Wilder. That's not hard to do. But even if it's the same, okay, he's getting outboxed, but he knocked a guy out, whatever. Long as he gets back to winning, sure. Then it's like, okay, there'll be some interest there. And I sure as hell, I'm not personally interested in Wilder Fury 3. Me personally, I don't even give a shit about that fight. I'd rather see AJ versus Fury or AJ versus Wilder. And to be honest with you, I feel like AJ beats Pulev and Fury beats whoever he's going to fight. We don't know the order of who's going to fight who. You know, people can get injured, the fight can get pushed back again, like all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I want to see AJ versus Fury Hill undisputed. You know, and then in my thing, I don't feel like they owe Deontay Wilder shit. But if that fight happens, like it comes around, that the fight happens, because this is the same guy that was trying to freeze out AJ, the same guy that was trying to freeze out Dillian White. So I don't feel like they owe him shit, and I feel like for him to just walk into a title shot because of, well, that's the fight people want to see, or wait if he lose again or whatever. But I want to see that fight, but I don't want to see a situation where like to me. Now, if Fury just lose to somebody, then okay, it is what it is. But to see AJ versus Fury for undisputed, that's what I really want to see. And I do want to see AJ versus Wilder. Like I said, if he get back to his winning ways, not if he's a fading fighter. If he's just like type of shit where like he like if he loses to a meatball, no, that's not what I want to see. Because I want to see both of those guys fight at their best and win. Win or lose, whoever win, however it goes, I want to see them at their best. But at the end of the day, with this pandemic, we know that, especially like, come on, AJ versus Wilder or AJ versus Fury, that's massive fights. You want that in front of a crowd. Will it be? We don't know. This pandemic is just like, we don't know what's going to happen, how long this thing's going to be here. I think this pandemic is just like catching a flu or catching a cold. Like it's something that's going to be here. I don't see this, it's just going to go away. So I'm feeling like this summer coming to follow, like this following summer, however, it may slow down. And little by little, maybe certain areas might not have it as much. But I think that this thing is going to be around for, like, who knows? We don't even know where it came from, So adjusting to this life is it's annoying. It's annoying as hell. But will we get Fury versus AJ in front of a crowd? Is Eddie Hearn gonna do the backyard thing? However, whatever, we don't know. But those are fights you want to see. And again, just like I salute AJ, man, for being that fighter he is. And let me say this, okay? All of us don't have, a squeaky clean background. A lot of us came up in rough neighborhoods and it was exposed to a lot of things and was a part of a lot of shit because that's what was around us. Like but let me say this. The things that you go through, your hardships in life, your tough times, this is what helped you become a better teacher, and it can make you become a better person. And I think it's petty and judgmental of someone to hold on to your past like it's your present. Especially when you no longer do those things. So my thing is, wherever, AJ struggles in life, the fact that he got from point A to point B to where he is now, that's what we should be focused on with anybody. So, like I said, you never hear me talking about people's personal life and what happens in their, with their wife and kids and like domestic situations. And I don't get caught up into those type of things. That's their personal life. But it's just like to see a fighter who never speaks negative of people, even people who can't stand him, jealous of him, envious of him, but he still doesn't shoot back at them. Really, he may respond to certain comments that people make, but like I said, it's like he never just goes in on a person, But yeah, like I said, I talk about AJ less, but I wanted to put that out there, like the level of respect that I have for him as a fighter and why I see him the way I do see him, and there's other fighters out there that I like as well, but in the heavyweights, he's that guy, and behind him would be Daniel Dubois. The other day we were talking about boxing over here in America. And, my thing is, like I said, I don't care where you're from. I just like to see great boxing. Simple. The boxing scene in America, okay, the heavyweight division, other than Michael Hunter, there's one other guy who I can't remember his name right now, But there's no heavyweights making headlines. The smaller guys are. It's the smaller guys. You ask most people over here in America, unless they're like diehard fight fans, you ask them like, who's the heavyweight champ of the world? If it's not from America, they don't know. And even when Deontay was the champ, people was like, oh, I don't know. They didn't even know what the hell was going on in boxing. If you ask them who Michael Hunter is, they don't know who you're talking about. Only people that's like really deeply into boxing. I remember people who said they never saw Mike Tyson fight, but they knew who he was. Everybody knew who Ali was. People knew who Larry Holmes was, and they don't even know who these fighters are. Now, we know as a sport, as a whole, boxing is not as popular as it used to be. We know that. And in States, it's like a lot of times you have to tell people who this guy is. But this is where you have to understand that what the action in the ring, right? People will also knock that because they don't know who this person is. So no matter how great you look, if they don't know you, it's like, man. And people love to compare. He wouldn't have beat Ali. He wouldn't have beat Mike Tyson. He wouldn't have beat, which to me is irrelevant because, well, this is a different day and time. And what does that prove? Because you give an opinion that, I think guys look, other people could, they can disagree all they want, and that's fine. But I'm saying this without any bias. I think guys like Joshua, Joseph Parker, Tyson Fury would have been able to hold their own in any era. In any era. And one thing people got to understand, they always talk about how small Usyk is, or they talk about how small Wilder is. At least Wilder can come in at 231. He came in at 231, so we know Wilder can come in about 235, man. People are saying, but it's not the same. We don't know that the weight he added had anything to do with his legs, or whatever it may have been. I think it was nerves more than anything else. But look at how little Holyfield was. Before Holyfield. Think about when we had heavyweights that was 190. You understand what I mean? So when we're talking about the heavyweight division, and we're talking about, how these guys were too strong back in the days. No. Somebody made a comment about Ken Norton. Somebody said, yeah, Norton was about 250, 240. No. The most Ken Norton weighed in the fight that I remember is 215. He was no 250, 240, no. He was 215, sometimes 212. He was no bigger than Evander Holyfield. Somebody made that comment. I'm like, bro, Ken Norton is like 6'1". He was like 210. Between 210 and 215. Where do you get 250 from? Norton was no. Even George Foreman, heavy as he came in back in the day, was like 224. But back in the day, like when he was in his prime, he 218, 216. No, these guys. Now, what what he walked around as, that weight, he probably might have been around 240, something like that, 235, 240 or whatever. But his fight weight, no, he came in like 220 something. High teens. Again, same thing. And Norton was the Foreman was the same height as Ali, 6'3". But yeah, so when they say these guys are too big and too strong back in the day, you guys forget, no. Even Larry Holmes, I remember him being like 205 at one point. Now what happens is when these guys start to get older, they start to gain weight naturally, and their bodies look less solid, is because they don't train any harder. They train the same way. They don't do a lot of cardio and stuff to like burn fat, to, really get fit. They just pretty much, boxers don't train for like muscles and all that, most of them. They get muscular because of the amount of fat that they burn and the constant work they're putting in. Some fighters look like they lift weights, but they don't. And you can always tell because they never really have a tricep muscle. They just have, they're all bicep and chest and like really shoulders and like shoulder width and arms, but never really bulky. And when they are, like, I remember like a guy that fought that nobody talks about his size. Now he was a big dude, was James Thunder from New Zealand. Shout out to New Zealand. Shout out James Thunder. He was another guy who I like watching James Thunder fight, man. James Thunder was a big dude. Bruce Seldon was a big dude. Big don't always mean shit though. They don't always mean nothing. But when y'all saying that these guys were huge, I'm like, what do you mean? Norton was muscular, but he was like Holyfield. He wasn't a big guy. Like really, like, you know what I mean? Norton, well, I don't know why people say that. They like he was like 240. I remember even Larry Holmes saying that Ken Norton would have been too strong for Mike Tyson. He would have been too strong for Holyfield. No, I don't believe that shit. And I remember Ernie Shavers destroyed. He destroyed Ken Norton. And Ernie Shavers could punch, but Ernie Shavers didn't have a beard, man. Ernie Shavers, he couldn't take a punch. And, he didn't have like special boxing skills. And he had a punch. And even when he fought Ali, he got the older version of Ali. So we already know about Shavers. He got beat twice by Holmes. So when you guys are saying that, oh, this guy was too big, he was too, how could you say that, Larry? I'm like, how could you say that? How was Norton too big and strong for Mike Tyson? And if Ernie Shavers knocked him out, who never had, you pictured Mike Tyson with his speed and movement and his power. No, people talk about how hard Ernie Shavers hit, and I'll say I'm not knocking that he didn't hit hard, but how can you say he hit harder than Mike? You haven't been hit by Mike. Even people that say he had been hit harder than Foreman, that say I've been hit by both of them, and they say Shavers hit harder. Okay, however, regardless, I can't see Ernie Shavers beating no goddamn Mike Tyson. And I can't see Ken Norton beating Mike Tyson either. Now, for those who can, if you're a visionary, hey, more power to you. But again, and two, why I'm saying all this as well too, because a lot of time people always mostly say that even now they insult these heavyweights, saying that Mike Tyson at 54 years old can come in here and beat all these guys, which is complete bullshit. But at the end of the day, like I said, this is Anthony Joshua's time. This is Joseph Parker's time. All these guys is here right now. Tyson Fury, Dillian White. This is these guys' time. So I don't like to do the comparison thing really, but I mean just the whole point of like watching a guy like AJ, people still acting like AJ's 15 years old. Like they act like he's a brand new fighter. No, AJ's been around for a little bit now. And like you say, he's still learning, still honing his skill, but AJ is no slouch. AJ is no chump. And I think he would have held his own the same way. And understand, it wouldn't have been as easy as you guys think. AJ is not a small dude, man. Now, stylistically, he said that it's harder to him to adjust to shorter fighters because he used to guys up top being up tall with him. So yeah, shorter fighters like Tyson would have gave him problems because of the movement. But at the same time, who didn't Tyson give problems to? And regardless to who people think would have won, that's really here nor there. It's not even relevant to even really talk about because those are fights that have never happened. But it really doesn't matter at all. Focused on the here and now. And, AJ is that guy to me. And look, to be perfectly honest with you, boxing is a sport that in countries where, like in the Olympics, where a lot of fighters, they don't go pro and come to America. They don't get that exposure. And there's a lot of fighters that I've been looking up that, they're great fighters, but they won't get the nod in America because they didn't get a chance to come here and fight. Guys like Felix Savon, and which, by the way, my kids like him as a fighter. They went that deep back to go watch all his Olympic fights, and he wasn't allowed to go pro and come to America. So he was always a glorified Olympic fighter, but he was always a solid fighter, man. And we can only imagine how good he would have been as a heavyweight. We don't know, right? But AJ is that guy for me. And I feel like AJ, like I said, he's a great ambassador of the sport. AJ cares how people see boxing. And he don't want people to see him carrying on in an ignorant way, doing, making derogatory remarks about people, attacking people on the stage and all this kind of, little petty nonsense, trying to get more attention to himself. So he's always been a stand-up guy ever since I've seen him fight. And, regardless to what, I like AJ as a fighter, regardless to what other people say, regardless to all the petty nonsense, all the hate, the jealousy, and people need to understand it's a lot of jealousy. That's all. It's a lot of jealousy, and people wish they were in that spot that he's in. So, like I said, he can fight. Definitely, I think he's the best heavyweight out there. And, a lot of people say it's Tyson Fury. So, yeah, we want to see this fight to find out who. We want to find out who. And I think that fight should be for undisputed. And like I said, I don't know. We don't know how long this pandemic is going to be going on. But, that's a fight we want to see. And again, I reiterate, I want to see Wilder knock some cats out. get back to his winning ways, let's get that fight. Let's get that fight. I don't want to hear anything about this guy was old or this guy waited for him to get old. This guy, I don't want to hear none of that. Let's get that in. But only if he's winning. Like I said, if he comes back and he's losing the meatball parmesan, then what's the purpose of throwing him in there with AJ? Or any top level fighter at that point. We want to see these guys while they're still at their best. We want to see them do what they have to do. And that's why it would help if Wilder would stop complaining and bitching and just get back in the fucking gym, get back in the ring and do what he has to do. So at the end of the day, AJ is that guy. And, you know, Daniel Dubois, we know he has more to accomplish, and for people to even look at him and say, okay, that signature fight, this fight with Joe Joyce is going to be that. This is going to be that signature fight that says, okay, this is how we see Daniel Dubois. And pretty much, like I said, I think he's the next force to be reckoned with in the heavyweight division. That's, you know, so he stay focused and stay hungry. That's one thing I cannot guarantee or promise how focused a person is going to stay, how hungry they're going to remain. I can't, you know, that's up to that fighter. But looking at the potential that's there, I think Daniel Dubois is that guy, man. I think he's that guy. And like I mentioned in the last one, like Efe Ajagba, again, I don't look at any fighter and say, oh, I don't want to see this guy get better. No, we want to see that. But like I said, Dubois to me has looked much better than Efe Ajagba. And every time they have a step up in class, Dubois still gets knockouts. He goes there and he does his thing. Efe Ajagba, he struggles. He struggles with lesser competition, even though it's a step up for him versus his last fight. You know, he struggles against these guys. So, you know, I don't see him as the next, you know, he has way more improvement, way more to improve on than Daniel Dubois does at this point. So, you know, and these are the guys, because, you know, you figure right now, AJ is what, 30, 31, 32 maybe? I think Tyson Fury's a year older than him, something like that. So, but anyway, you know, these are the guys that's right there next in line. And, you know, not that Efe Ajagba can't give, I hope he does. Strengthen the division. And we want to see solid fighters. We want to see that. That's what we want in boxing. You know, we want to be able to watch it. That was a great fight. We want that. We want that competition. That's what we want to see. But look, you know, like I said, I wanted to give AJ his props, and because I don't make many videos. I really don't talk about AJ because nothing's going on. AJ's training, and he's not caught up in his nonsense. And you know what? That's better. That's honestly better for the better. You know, because if I'm doing videos because of a bunch of bullshit like this Glovegate nonsense, and we keep talking about these things, it's because new videos keep popping up. More lies, more evidence, more proof, more this, more whatever, all this nonsense. And it's like, nah, y'all not going to sit here and make these lies up. We all have boxing channels, and this is what we talk about. This is what we do. So I feel like, let me take the time to give AJ his props. Let me put his name out. Let people know why I feel the way I do. And you know, towards AJ as a fighter. And listen, drop comments in the comment section. Let me know how y'all feel about AJ. Let me know where y'all from. I like to shout out and salute. I love doing this, y'all. I'm having fun. I'm having the time of my life doing this stuff. Let me know where y'all from. You know, I want to salute y'all. And look, salute to the UK. Salute AJ. Salute Nigeria. Look, he's a class act. Like I said, you guys should be glad to have him as an ambassador of the sport, as a representation of the UK in the sport. And AJ is a guy. Stay the same. Be yourself. AJ will always be that guy. He'll be that top guy whenever I'm talking about. You know, I don't believe in greatest of all time. People always say that, but my thing is, when AJ's career is said and done, hopefully it'll be, you can't say Ali, you can't say Frazier, you can't say Tyson without saying AJ. You know, hopefully that, and then I already feel like right now, I like where AJ is right now. We want to see how he's looking going forward. And I want to enjoy the journey getting there. And that's one thing. So there's no rush. Just, hey, let's see what's going on. Because once your career is over, it's over. You know, and we want to see every fighter develop. We want great fights. I'm not afraid to, AJ might lose. Yeah, well, he just might. If he does, he does. But he's the guy that I'm pushing for. And we salute AJ. We salute the UK. British boxing is on fire. Let's just say it like it is. I can sit here and name a whole lot of British fighters right now, every weight class. British boxing is on fire. It has been for the longest. Other people might not want to give British boxing their props, but I give it up because it's boxing. I don't give a fuck where you from. I love boxing. I love fighting, period. I love combat sports in general as a whole. So British boxing